12th meeting of the Civil Aviation Board to order. Do a roll call.
Member King,
Here.
Member Elvis, Member Martinez,
Here.
Mayor Morris, Chairman Curtis,
Here.
Vice Chairman Leslie,
Here.
and Member Verdal.
Here.
I did get messages from the mayor and Member Ebus. Member Elvis is working, doing some training, and so he's not with us tonight, but would definitely like to thank him for his service and what he does. And the mayor, I'm sure, is working for our benefit, doing other things, and so we appreciate him as well. So everybody had a chance to look over the minutes. Do I have a motion of approval?
I'll move that we approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded on the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right. James, we're going to move to the airport director's report, and I'm just going to give you the floor and also open it up to the board for questions and have an open discussion as we go through A through J.
Okay. Is this one of them things where I have to go next slide all the time? Yes. Or can I get a clicker? Can I give you a symbol? All right, next slide. The airport fencing project has been rebid and awarded to Valley Fence Company. The grant turned out to be 100% FAA funding. Final documents, well, I just got an email about an hour ago. What we were waiting on was the, no, that's not what we were waiting on. We were waiting on the insurance. Moles and Coburn was waiting on the insurance, and they should have that back by the end of the week. And after that, we schedule a pre-bid meeting, a pre-construction meeting, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll whenever they get all the supplies in for the build. The runway 1230 PAPI lighting project. Plans are finalized and ready for bid. This is the email I got an hour ago. Is that we got Moles and Corbin sent over the I can't remember what it's called. It's the documents that we need to put it in the papers and actually open the bid for it. So we're expected the bids to go out or to open in the next week, I think.
The advertised for bidding?
The advertised for bid next week.
James, I have a question on the last slide on the fencing. Mm-hmm. Those numbers are, that's a big spread on those numbers. Was there, when this went out to bid, was there a clear scope of work written exactly what was to be provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that particular bid itself actually had several bid alternates in it. And so anywhere from having timber posts to having steel posts to having the wildlife skirting to not having wildlife skirting. And so there was a full set of plans obviously developed for that particular project, as well as all the specifications that were needed, and including all the bid alternates. So there was definitely a well thought out plan put in place for the contractors to consider. And then, of course, price materials had a lot to do with it. But we were actually really pleased and were able to award all of the bid alternates with the price that Valley came in at.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good.
Where's Valley
Thank
located
you.
out of?
That's Albuquerque, isn't it? Valley
I believe
is in
so.
Albuquerque?
I believe
Yeah.
they are out of Albuquerque.
And when you got it up there November. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't do a good job of reading my own slide.
Thank you, James.
Yes, sir. So the PAPI lights should be ready for advertisement for bids next week. Self-serving fueling station. All the parts have arrived at the manufacturer, after some very lengthy delays, due to part shortages and, all this mess going on. They started assembling the fuel skid, and like I mentioned before, I had it developed into a skid that's movable. So if in the future we decide to expand the fuel farm or move the fuel farm, we just unbolt it, pick it up, and move it to its next location. So I tried to make it as easy as possible to maneuver and, as we continue to grow the airport. They got all the permits approved. We expect them to start installation at the end of this week or early next week.
And how long will that take?
It should take maybe a week, because once they get on site, the only thing they have to do is dig the trench for the self-serve station and put the new pumps in, which are going to be sump pumps, so it'll be easy. For the airfield marking project, the plans have been completed and the paperwork has been completed. The project will be assigned to Sandbar Construction through state price agreements. Sandbar is located in Albuquerque. They specialize in pavement markings. I believe they did all the pavement markings before. And they have a state contract to do all the airports in New Mexico, so we're gonna get it done via that. There's no ETA on start or completion, and it's 100% New Mexico DOT funded. The airport equipment building, which is 100 feet by 60 feet. And I laugh because when I said I was 100 by 60, I didn't realize how big it was. So we went into the big hangar and we measured. Holy crap. So I blame Lee for not telling me it's going to be that big. It's pretty massive. So the building kit, it arrived to Nick Grego, and it's a weld-up building because it was cheaper and faster to get in. So it's at their shop, and they've already started welding it up. So they've had it about a week. I'm not sure how long it's going to take them. They got to start the dirt work and pour the pad for the building, which they say they'll be here this week to do. So we got that, and we don't know when they'll start or when they'll finish the building.
Remind us of the placement of this building.
So we actually looked at. We were going to put it kind of angled on that ditch, but we determined that's not even a good location. So we decided to put it next to the maintenance building. We got a lot of frontage right there, so it'll give us a good way to get in and out. We had some cleachy piles around the big dirt pile that we had them spread to make us a little driveway behind there. We also had a culvert put in across the ditch that will lead into the secure area once the fence is complete. So the entire back of the maintenance building and equipment building will be on the secure side, which will keep it a little more safe from, where it is now.
And what's the funding source on that, James?
100% New Mexico DOT.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, one of the nice things about that location, and as James and I have been talking about it, is that, A, we can use the building as part of the fence, and so we're not gonna have a fence going across there. And as I was here looking at it, it also is gonna provide screening from of our maintenance equipment, obviously what we're doing back there from a maintenance operation standpoint. So it'll screen it from when you're making that drive into our terminal space. And so I think that's another benefit of James changing the configuration of that and locating it in that particular area. Now, granted, you're going to see the backside of a metal building, but you're not going to see all of our equipment.
Well, that area has been kind of an eyesore, and so I like the concept.
Yep.
I'd ask, is that to scale? What's the size of the other building right next to it?
That's not to scale.
It's actually bigger than that, isn't it?
It will be longer. What did we measure in the maintenance building?
The maintenance building is 75 feet deep and 60 feet wide, I think. I know it's 75 feet deep.
Well, it's gonna be close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
No,
Wow. Well, you know, I'm glad that you're going with that size because, you know, you've got a plan for future growth. Today, it might be bigger than what we need, but we're going to utilize that space as we grow.
We already have the equipment to fill it.
Well, you might consider 200 foot then.
Yeah, when we measured the tractors. We was like, we can put these tractors back to back right in there. They'll fit in one bay. So we got 5 bays, and they're going to run the concrete out 20 feet beyond the building as the little pad or launch pad or whatever you call it. I don't know what to call it.
To the front?
Yeah, to the front. So we'll have some good room out there.
Yeah. And that building could, in the future, if you had to expand, if we needed more room, we could go west
Yep.
with that building.
Or a pole barn?
Eventually, when we move the septic tank, I want to kind of try to connect it to the other building. I don't know, something. The fuel farm light pole that fell down in the last windstorm we had, the pole is still back ordered. They can't get it in, but it's ordered and back ordered. So we don't have an ETA on completion. I mean, with the new lighting, it's not that bad, but it's still a dark spot on the ramp.
What about the fencing materials? Are they in stock and available as well? This back order thing seems to be real on all industries, no matter what the product is.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the fencing yet.
Okay.
We'll, obviously, when we have the pre-con meeting, we'll find out. And you're absolutely correct. In fact, John and I were talking about it before the meeting. All of our construction projects, we're seeing delays. Supply chain issues
Yeah.
and being able to get materials in.
That's what supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Terminal landscaping project. So our terminal wasn't that pretty in the front. And me and Lee, we came up with an idea. We're going to zero-scape it. No, wait. Zero-scape it.
There you go.
He gets on me every time I say zero. So we had petitioned some landscaping companies in Clovis to give us a price. They never got back to us. So I called Old Faithful, Nick Grego and Sons. Wait, can I say that? Okay. And I asked them, do you guys do landscaping, just zero-scape? He's like, yeah, we do it. I said, give me a price. He gave us a price and we got it done. It was a little under $10,000, but the difference is night and day. So they put in a drip system and added some yucca plants. So here's some pictures of it.
You know, James, there's zero-scaping all over town, and when you see it like that, it looks like it's no maintenance, but evidently, you have to buy Roundup by the barrel to.
Yeah, eventually
Not looking like that.
they put 2 layers of yard fabric down, but eventually, with all the winds blowing those seeds in there, they're going to start growing stuff. But we got a nice new spray rig that Lee and the guys built. So
Yeah, well, that's great. That's gonna look really good.
Lee took the initiative because he knows I wanted that big giant dirt pile next to the maintenance building going. And he knew that the county needed dirt to fill in some washouts and everything. So Lee gave him a call and Asked them if they wanted some of it, but we couldn't give it to them. And I told them, I don't care, I want to give it away, but city policy and FAA rules say I can't, so. So we had sold it previously for 25 cents a yard to one of our airport neighbors who was filling in. He was building a building and he needed some fill dirt, so we sold it to him 25 cents a yard. And the county came back and they said, "Yeah, we'll buy it. And, you know how much?" And somehow the signals got crossed, but we were selling it to the county for 25 cents a truckload. But I'd rather, if I could have gave it away, I would have, because it's hideous. But they started taking it away, and as they chipped more into it, and I didn't realize it prior to how big that pile of dirt was. It is absolutely humongous. So it's going to take them another, 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks?
They'll be back in a couple of weeks to take some more out. I don't know how much they're gonna take out.
They worked for a good week straight, and it's like they didn't even touch it. So we're getting rid of that eyesore.
And as part of that, they have to provide all the manpower and equipment to haul it off. So we're not out anything when it comes to us having to help them, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean,
I
the
think it's
cost,
great, you can help another governmental agency.
Absolutely.
and the cost to the city, if we had to bring in trucks to move it, get it out of there, would be a huge cost.
Absolutely.
So it works well for everybody.
Yep.
Schools need any dirt?
No, thanks, Lee. Not today.
So, the ARFF vehicle, I submitted an official request for funding, August 1st. And I was informed that we would be looked at first quarter of federal fiscal, which is October 1. So now we're waiting on the FAA to determine if they will fund an Index A ARF or an Index B, which we're calling an Index A with,
You're in airport terms now.
I know, I forget what it's called, but it's basically an Index A with additional, there it is, additional capacity. So if they, and I've used, our response times, I used some information we gathered from the drill. The next ARF vehicle being from Cannon, that's 25 minutes away. I've gave him all the data and everything from the exercise. So he said it's looking good, but it's up to his bosses how they are going to look at it. So, and it would be funded under AIP discretionary funds, and we'll have a 5% match. So the state will have 5% and we'll have 5%, which came up to be 15,000. And the difference between an Index A and an Index B is an Index B can hold 1,500 gallons of water. And right now, our current ARF truck only holds 250. So we can, it's not much. So, and we basically rely on the first responders to give us what we need to put out those fires. Like if there's an aircraft fire, we can spray water on it all day, but until we get the truck from Cannon in, I can't say what I wanted to say, but we're just messing with it,
Well, with the regional jets and the size of aircraft, that our airport now has the capability to receive, having better capability is going to be really important.
And that's what I explained to them. They like to look at how many departures a day. So for the size aircraft, if we had 3 departures, we're an Index B airport, but we only have 2. So that's what we run into.
Is the fire department building big enough to hold the bigger trucks?
No, we would have to expand out the rear about 5 feet, but the FAA says if they purchase a new truck that's an Index B, then they would pay for the modification of the building also.
Great. Great. Okay, thank you.
Well, let's hope they have enough foresight to see and share our vision.
I gave them everything they need. I don't know. I gave them everything that justifies us to have an Index B. But we'd still be an Index A airport, just with a larger vehicle. So last week.
So we're just waiting to hear back from them on approval?
Yeah, I'm waiting until the end of next week to start bugging him again. But he called me. It was last week actually. He says, "Hey, we're still waiting." I think what it is they have to get all of their major projects out of the way to see how much money they have left to start doing other projects. But he said this is a project that they want to do because they need to do it. Well, because we need it. So we got a good chance. Our only other option is Class 3 Index A, and that holds 500 gallons. But it's a big truck. So. And then we can run both of them in tandem if we ever need. So last week, myself and Lee Baker, he's right there. We attended the International Ground Support Equipment Expo in Las Vegas. My main interest for the expo was to look at ground power units, aircraft de-ice and anti-ice equipment, aircraft HVAC carts, and lavatory carts. Because I think that's what we need to get over the hump that I think we're stuck at, is to provide more services and we can get more jets in. The more jets we get in, the more fuel we sell. So that's what we're looking at. That's what I was looking at. Looking at a lease to purchase options because we don't have the funding right away. I'm waiting on a quote back from, cannot remember the name of the company, of course. They're going to give me a quote for everything we were looking for. I told them it doesn't have to be new, but it has to look, good and work properly. And with a lease to purchase, it would come with a maintenance program, which will be an additional cost, but we don't have to take care of it because we don't know how, and I don't know if there's anybody in Clovis that can. So with the maintenance program, they would come out and do all the monthly maintenances and the repairs, and we don't have to worry about anything.
It's Mercury,
It's Mercury?
is the name of the company.
Okay, Mercury. That's why I took him, so he can remember stuff for me. So the equipment will enhance the capability of the airport. It'll attract more modern aircraft and jets, and it'll make the airport more competitive with airports in the area like Lubbock and Amarillo, because they charge ramp fees and landing fees, and we don't charge none of that. So if you look at our fuel prices, and now we're offering all of these services, jets will look more coming here than Amarillo or Lubbock or wherever else.
Does the regional jets use any of that stuff?
If we had it, they may. Like here, they have their own de-ice cart and their own. That's all they have, actually. Yeah. So if they ever need a GPU to start up, they would have to either borrow one from Sky Aviation or have one flown in. But if we had the equipment, we could, let them use it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me.
Well, not let them use it. They can lease it.
But at least it'd be there and available for them if they had to.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that just be considered a service that we provide?
Yes. So we'd go out and we'd hook it up, we turn it on, and they'll set all the gauges in the airplane, and then when they're done with it, we'll take it off and count how many hours they used it and charge them every hour.
There's a fee applied to that. You
Yes.
mentioned the de-icing of the aircraft, who is taking care of that equipment? Do they have people on site to take care of that?
Denver Air
Line?
does, yes. They have
they?
a cart.
Okay,
Well, not a cart, it's a truck.
okay. And their fluids and all that, they're taking care of that on their own?
Yes. I don't think that would change, because they can get it probably at a better price than we can get it, so I doubt that would change.
Okay. Well, good to have that. It's good to have that.
Yeah. Especially now it's getting winter and some people wanna fly and you spray that anti-ice on them, they're good for a little while.
Anything else under the airport director's report?
So we've ordered the new fuel trucks. The new fuel trucks were ordered by Skymark refuelers. And I tried to get in contact with two other ones and I told them, hey, we're looking for fuel trucks, what can you get me? No response. So Skymark got back with me and they provide refuelers for Signature and Millionaire and some other FBOs out there. So when you look in their gallery, you see all the fuel trucks. So our current fuel trucks, the Jet A truck doesn't even go in, we lost reverse. We cannot reverse the truck. So when we pull it into to the fuel farm, we have to drag it out. So, and we anticipated that, and that's why I pushed for the rush to get new fuel trucks, because that one, I don't even know if it's going to go in forward. We don't know. So we ordered 100 low lead, 1,000 gallon truck and a 5,000 gallon Jet A truck. We purchased using a loan from the city to be paid back over 5 years. It was either that or lease and get charged interest and all other kind of fees for it. So the city was gracious enough to give us a loan for that.
Does the city charge an interest rate on that loan? Just out of curiosity?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We're very reasonable.
The trucks are built to order, so once we order them, they started building them. There was a back order on Ford chassis, and then there was a back order on International chassis. So far as I know right now, they did get the International in, but I'm not sure about the Ford. We actually talked to Skymark while we were at the GSE conference, and they gave us an overview of the truck and let us touch some things, and it's all fancy, and we're gonna need some training on that thing because it's got some buttons on it. So, we're expecting delivery about January.
What are we looking at cost-wise for the two?
Cost-wise, the 100 low lead was 122,700, and the Jet A was 235,750. And then I got pictures to show examples. The Ford down in the corner, that's the 1,000 gallon we're getting for 100 low lead, and the other one on the bottom is the exact model of truck we're getting for Jet A. But it'll be a newer International, not that one. And then I put a picture of Millionaire and the guy who actually welds the tanks up. Just give you some ideas of what we're doing.
Those are gonna look great on the ramp.
Absolutely.
Updated equipment, look great.
So I wanted to give you the emplacements, and I wanted to give you a history of it. That way you can see where we are. Right now we're showing 4,496 emplacements. That's almost half to our 10,000 emplacement mark. We probably won't make it this year, but if we keep up at this rate, we'll surpass it next year. So just wanted to give you a screenshot of what I send to the city every month so they can see what we're doing. But you can see the increase from 174 all the way up to 742 this, last month. So we're doing some great numbers.
No doubt about it. Can we get an update? Do you have one on the DTS system and our tie-in there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so, I had been in contact with Cannon Air Force Base, and they actually reached out to GSA as well as DTMO, which is the Defense Travel Management Office, and they're the ones that actually run DTS, Defense Travel System. And they spoke with them, got some great feedback from them, and then provided me the contact information for GSA and DTMO. And so I emailed those individuals requesting a meeting of the city of Clovis with themselves, and then also including Denver Air, of course. And unfortunately, I never heard back from them. Emailed them a couple more times, still never heard back from them. And so actually, we have reached out to and had a meeting with Senator Heinrich's office and started to involve them. And so we met with some of his staffers last week, and they thought actually we were very fortunate because the individual that we met with, his name is actually Major John Siegel, and he's on a fellowship from the Air Force working in Senator Heinrich's office, had previously been stationed at Cannon, and so he is very much on board for us trying to make this happen. So they were going to reach out to those individuals and see if we can't get a meeting scheduled, basically as one group, because the feedback that we're getting and that Denver Air has been getting is them being asked to do X, so they go and do that. Well, then they go do Y, and then they go do Z, and for some reason we can't get into the system. And so we don't know what the holdup or what the resistance is. But I thought that having a group meeting would suit us best, because then we can all potentially get on the same page. So I wish I could say, yes, we've done this. However, I haven't been able to get over that hurdle of just getting a meeting with the individuals. So as soon as I hear back from Senator Heinrich's office, I'll certainly keep the board updated and apprised of everything that's going on, and us trying to get into in Denver Air, trying to get into that system.
We appreciate the update and the city's efforts in that. From the outside looking in, it seems like it should be an easy process, and we all know that it is significant to the long-term success of our employment numbers and funding through the FAA. And so, yeah, it's critical. And so thank you for the efforts in that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, it is extremely frustrating to the fact that Denver Air has been working on this for almost 2 years, trying to get into their system, and simply can't. And we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I wanted to give an update on fuel sales. We did about 2,000 pounds, well, 2,000 gallons less than what we did the month prior in September. No real reason. Could be new COVID restrictions. It's getting colder. It's getting windy. There's no telling what the issue is, but just a normal dip. Last month, I think we did 12,000 gallons.
Do you see that same dip historically?
Generally, when it starts getting cold, people fly less, because like me, I'm terrified of icing. So if it's close to freezing and it's raining, I'm not going. So it's just a seasonal dip.
And that's one thing that we are going to start tracking in general is because monthly numbers are fantastic. However, what is this month compared to that month a year ago, 2 years ago? So that way we can start to identify what those trends look like and allow us to forecast better going into the future. So that is one thing that we're starting to work on across all of our departments and what we track and the data we track, because you've got to have that, be able to make that comparison. Otherwise, the numbers are just numbers.
And we got a new flight tracking software also.
Wonderful. Well, to your point, it would be nice to be able to verify if it's a seasonal dip or if a airport
Yeah.
within 100 miles has made some modifications and is doing something that is affecting us on our end, and we need to be agile and be able to compete in those markets.
Yep. The one issue, I don't like comparing anything to last year. So I always compare it to the years prior to last year. So here's our fuel prices right now, against the regional average and the national average. So we're well below what everybody else is. And remembering that the regional and the national includes self-serve, which is cheaper anyway. So we're doing pretty good on our fuel.
Is there a database that pilots can use to look up to see what our fuel prices is,
Yes, there's several.
fuel prices are?
Yeah.
Huh, okay. Well, that, you know, when you're buying as much as some of those airplanes hold, that looks like that would be a huge difference too.
Yeah, because when we every time we get a fuel load in, they give us how much it is per gallon. So it'll be $3 and something a gallon, and we'll add our markup, and then that'll give us our fuel price. And once we do that, I update it at about 9 different sites, which updates everything else. So you can go to anything out there and find out what the fuel prices are. And with ForeFlight and Garmin Pilot, you can actually look at fuel prices around the area, and then you can do it like that.
That's good.
We're planning to do Wings and Wheels again next year. We're planning for October 1st, 2022.
That was an outstanding success. That was a great day for the city and a great day for the airport. I mean, this is a good car show and a great airplane show. I think that can only grow.
I would like to thank Vicky and Kelsey Knight.
Yeah, well, thank you, because whatever you did, it worked.
Vicky just invited all of her Facebook friends.
You know, Tucumcari did that for years, had an air show, and it got so popular that they would actually turn out the regional schools for the day that they had their air show. And they had made a deal with the Canadian Air Force Snowbirds that they would come every year and perform because they did it on a Wednesday. So the Snowbirds were moving from some part of the United States or some part of Canada to another part, but nobody had an air show on Wednesday except Tucumcari. And so they were able to get the Snowbirds year after year after year and had a great relationship with the Rotary Club sponsored it actually, and they stopped it because they had a tragic accident with an air show performer, but it certainly wasn't the air show's fault. It just was a bad circumstance. But anyway.
Well, we're trying to keep it free, so we're looking for sponsors.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly want to echo Mr. Leslie on that. I thought it was a huge success, and so I definitely wanted to give a thanks to James and your crew, Lee and Cynthia. Thank you guys, Justin, Claire, and all volunteers and exhibitors that came out. It was just a fantastic success. I was overwhelmed by the number of cars that were there. Aircraft, it was really cool to see the base involvement in that as well. The Osprey was a huge attraction. My kids thought that was just the coolest thing ever, to get to go over and climb up in it and ask questions. And anyways, I love the concept of next year, expanding, getting more sponsors. And I really think that we planted the seeds for long-term success and growth on our Wings and Wheels event for sure.
I'm glad you invited Aerotech. You know, we've all seen those airplanes sitting over there in front of that giant hangar.
Yeah.
And they look pretty small, but they don't look small in the ramp.
That thing was huge.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
that
never
was
seen
fun.
one that big up close. I was like, wow.
I thought the coolest part was their arrival. And they arrived and opened up the doors, and all the little kids Cameron's and the guy that was with him, their little kids got out of that helicopter and just scattered like ants. And anyways, it was pretty cool to see.
So I'm done now.
All right, any other questions, comments on the airport director's report? All right, seeing none, we'll move into new business. We have a request for approval and action on the EAS contracts, and so we'll turn it over to Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So the US DOT did put out their request for proposals for the EAS service that's provided here at the city of Clovis. They received 3 proposals, one from Denver Air, one from Boutique, and one from Advanced Airlines. Today, I actually, in front of you, you'll see a 4th proposal submitted underneath the alternate EAS program by Advanced Air. So what we're looking for this evening, the DOT has asked for the city of Clovis to make a recommendation to them by November the 9th. It feels like a very short process than what we went through this 2 years ago when we were doing this. It seemed like we had a lot more time to go through this. But looking for guidance from the board. Of course, you guys can make a recommendation to the city commission based off the proposals that have been forwarded out to you for review. We could try and do some sort of accelerated interview process if that was something you also chose or felt was needed. Or we could, like I said, make a decision this evening and just make that straight recommendation to the city commission for them to make the ultimate decision on the recommendation to the DOT for who we're recommending. Once again, we did forward out those proposals for your review, except for the one that I received today. So in our experience from this last go-around under the alternate EAS, that was the route that we went originally with Contour Air, if you recall, and the DOT came back to us and said, we only consider alternate EAS if there is no viable alternatives that were submitted. And so that's why our recommendation 2 years ago was not accepted by the US DOT, and they ultimately awarded the contract to Denver Air. So that may be something you keep in mind as you're looking at that alternate EAS proposal that was submitted by Advanced. But certainly wanted to give you guys the opportunity to discuss and get some direction from you from where you would like us to head as staff, or if you would like to make that recommendation straight to the city commission, would certainly entertain that as well. So with that, I will turn it over to you guys to discuss the proposals and make any considerations that you may have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that being said, let's open it up for questions, comments, and discussion.
Didn't we have an issue with Boutique once before?
Boutique Air was the provider prior to Denver Air coming in, and they had been the service provider for, I think, maybe 2 contract terms. Definitely there was issues with their reliability, a lot of canceled flights. One thing that I did notice in the proposals is I was reviewing them, and it was also considering the improvements that have been made to our terminal and proposed expansion to our terminal that we're already looking at, is the aircraft size. And so I know that I believe that the Boutique Air was proposing the King Air underneath theirs. Advanced Air was proposing the King Air underneath their proposal. In their alternate EAS proposal, they proposed a Dornier, but then, of course, Denver Air had proposed to continue flying the Dornier or even the ERJ. I know that they have been bringing the ERJ in frequently based off of the number of tickets sold. And so for us to look at going back to a smaller aircraft when you're witnessing the numbers that we are seeing at our airport, I think should definitely be something that I would recommend y'all's consideration towards.
Yeah, I don't mean to throw shade on a King Air or a PC-12, but they are kind of small. And the passenger count, like you said, going up, so.
And there was an issue, even with the passenger count, there was always a baggage issue. So they could put more people in than they could carry their baggage. My wife and I ran into that several times, especially on the Pilatus. I agree with you, Mr. Holwald. I can't imagine us with the counts that we're seeing and knowing that that's probably only going to go up. going back to a smaller airplane. I'm glad that Denver Air is, you know, including their regional jet in there, because it looks to me like that's the direction we're headed for on all our flights. So I can't imagine picking a provider that couldn't meet the service with the aircraft.
Justin, Denver Air is asking for a bigger subsidy. Does that have, how much of an effect does that have on the Fed's decision?
Well, interestingly enough, actually, the Denver Air had a higher subsidy than the alternate recommendation that we made last time. And so, and actually, it was higher than, I want to say, SkyWest's was last time. And so the DOT, all things considered, they still recommended and obviously awarded the contract to Denver Air based off of what they had proposed. What I looked at, and I believe their subsidies were around $5 million for flying the Dornier or flying the ERJ in here. Comparing that to Advanced Air was still about the same amount of money for bringing in a King Air, and around that $5 million mark. So I think that when you look at those numbers, look at the services that are being provided and proposed, I would say historically, based off of what we've seen here in the most recent past, is that the DOT went ahead with awarding that higher subsidy, knowing what is happening at our airport and knowing the importance of it, while we still work through maybe these details with the DOD and trying to get to that particular industry working and flying on our aircrafts.
Any other comments, questions?
I would just echo the same sentiment that we've made some progress over the last 2 years. Denver Air was a big part of that. Obviously, our new airport director was a big part of that. I think we would be taking a step backwards if we did go back to a prop type aircraft. Passenger capacity is, you know, much lesser than what we have now, so.
And just for y'all's information, I mean, we're currently, and James has reached out to a company to get us new seating for our terminal. Right now, we can only hold around 28 passengers or so in there, 23 passengers. And so we've gotten a proposal from a company to replace all that seating in that area, which would bring us up into the 30s. Still doesn't fix our problem for trying to hold 50 passengers. And so, but those are seats that then we could use as we do a terminal expansion as well into the future. We've also reached out to Decker Paris Sabatini, who's the one that did the original terminal remodel for us, and they're putting together a scope and fee for us to go ahead and do that expansion and start giving us some conceptual ideas on what it could look like. Then obviously once we decide on a concept, moving on to final construction documents for us. As part of that, we have been working with the TSA. Obviously, they were originally scheduled to go into the modular unit, thinking, hey, being able to hold 20 passengers is going to work for us for some time. Well, great for us. We're spilling out of our terminal. And so things are happening a lot faster than what we thought. So we've asked the TSA to hold off on that modular unit, and us having to, both the feds and the city of Clovis having to put money into that and then immediately turn around and discard it. And so they're willing to back off us making those improvements. They're actually going to use the conference room as a break room for their agents that are out there currently while we work through this terminal expansion. Then at that time, we'd actually just build those improvements into the terminal themselves. So once again, we're making great progress at our airport. I certainly agree with your comments, and I think that us planning for the future and planning for a 50 passenger capabilities makes sense.
I just think we're on a roll, and Denver Air has not proposed anything less than what they've already been providing. They're continuing to work, and so for me, that sold it for me with Denver Air. I don't know, Mr. Chairman.
I feel the exact same way. I also have had feedback from the mayor and from member Elbis as well. And both of them echo the same things. When when the contract was not awarded to who we requested the first time, I know it sure felt like a step backwards for our airport and for our community, but with the partnership with Denver Air and them helping us accomplish our goals, it certainly seems like we've been able to take 2 steps forward and give the region access to 2 major international airports, which gives them access to anywhere in the world. And I really feel like the continued partnership with Denver Air for the foreseeable future is in our best interest.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we recommend to the city commission that we award the contract to Denver Air.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I would second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to make a recommendation to the city council that we award that contract, or that we recommend that the award go to Denver Air Connection. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, next item is airport rate revision.
My turn again.
Yes, sir.
So, there's 2 reasons I would like to change the rates at the airport. One is, when we start self-serve. Self-serve is gonna be pretty cheap, over cost. We'll still make a profit, but we're not gonna get rich off of it. But the attraction to self-serve is pilots get to fuel themselves and takes away liability, a little bit of liability from the airport. It allows us to keep the guys on projects that they need to do, like mowing or snow removal or fixing broken lights, other things that we always get called out for, right in the middle of a project, to go fuel someone. It gives the opportunity to fuel yourself, cheaper fuel. That's kind of the thing with self-serve. It's always cheaper than full serve because we don't have an actual manpower out there fueling aircraft. They can fuel themselves. So we're getting Jet A and also 100 low lead. And that the Jet A was mainly for AeroCare, who fuels all night as they do their missions. And we do call outs and our guys come out. And right now we don't charge a call out fee. I'd like to implement call out fees, after hours call out fees, once we get self-serve up and running. I haven't added that to the sheet that I gave you guys, but I'll get it to you later on. So my proposal is to increase T-hanger rates by $15 across the board. That will allow us some capital to start fixing up the hangars. We got a lot of siding damage. They need to be painted. They need to be insulated. Dust just flows right under it comes in everywhere. I'd like to seal them up a little better, but we don't have the capital to do it. So increasing the rates would allow us additional funds to be able to make those hangars look like they should. We've already done the lighting, so that should let everyone know that, hey, we're starting to do stuff out here. So I don't think we'll get much pushback from tenants about it. We're already pretty cheap, but it would allow us to make some significant improvements to those hangars.
So what kind of revenue is that going to generate? And I agree with you that I don't believe that you'll get a lot of pushback as long as your tenants see improvements immediately. And we start seeing improvements to our hangars and good things happening, well, then you're not going to get feedback. But go for a rate increase and we see status quo, you're going to get some pushback.
I understand. I think everybody knows I'm not just going to sit by and not do anything.
James, I guess to the chairman's point, do we have a schedule? And so I think maybe if it, along to go with the rate increase of, well, this is our plan to implement. And so, you know, this time next year or whatever it may be, we're gonna paint the hangars, then we're gonna insulate the hangars and whatever else you need to do to the hangars. That way that they know what their rate increase is going towards. They know maybe what the approximate cost is, and that's why because it's gonna ultimately benefit them, because it's improvements to the facilities that we're renting to them. And so, but I think if they can see that, that may also help, sell the rate increase to them, knowing that it's just not gonna go back into the coffers and stay the status quo.
Okay, that makes sense.
No doubt, that would be highly, highly beneficial.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, one thing that I would comment on here is that I see that everything is a flat $15 increase. So what that equates to for the T-hanger, the least expensive, is a 20% increase in their rate. But if you apply that $15 across the board, it becomes less and less of an increase for the more expensive hangars. So if you take the $105 going to 120, you're looking at substantially less percentage-wise. And if you do that same thing with the 125 to 140, it's even less than that. So somebody's gonna end up with a 20% pay, or a rate increase, and somebody's gonna end up with a 10% or a 12% rate increase. And so maybe take another look at the rates, and so we're making it equitable across the board, and say everybody gets a 15% increase or 10%, whatever that amount needs to be, so that we bring in the same amount of money, revenue.
Yeah, and, you know, we always play with percentages versus flat, because to your point, a flat increase across the board, percentage-wise, is different. However, it's still the same amount of money. It's still the same $15. We deal with it, especially, for example, when we look at employee wage increases. And so a dollar is a dollar to every employee, regardless of who you are. However, if you're on the lower wage end and you get a dollar, that is a much larger percentage increase in your salary versus somebody that's on the higher pay ranges, that's a much smaller percentage increase. And so it's one of those things that you got to balance. It's like, are we going to go off of percentages, or are we going to go off flat rate increase where everybody realizes the same amount of an increase? So,
No, I understand that. This is just the inverse of that, though. This is where people are not gonna be receiving what they're gonna have to pay more money. And so we're talking about the amount of pushback you're gonna get. You're gonna get the pushback, and I don't know how many of these $75 old section hangars we have, excuse me, but you're gonna have those people that are gonna be providing the most pushback, is what I'm saying. And so if you can say everybody got the same rate increase across the board, there's nothing left to be said.
Right.
In my mind.
Right.
The only way that you can take that sting away is, like Mr. Curtis was saying, if you provide more improvements to the old hangars than the new ones, that balances that increase. But if everybody gets the same thing, I agree with you completely.
Well, that first bank of hangers, I want to tear down anyway.
That's a whole nother story.
Those things are horrible.
Based on these rate increases, what is the projected increase in revenue annually to be able to calculate the scope of work that you're gonna be able to do to these hangars?
And that's what I was talking about, exactly the numbers. If you take a look at that number, and you take a look at the, you do the math, you find out, okay, that equates to a 11.75% increase across the board. We come out with the same exact amount of revenue increase. And nobody can say anything that, hey, he's, not paying as much as I am. That was my point earlier.
Okay.
And so, back to his question, I don't know what you anticipate that increase being.
Pull out
Has
my
that-
calculator real quick. I haven't calculated that far into it. I was just looking at what's a comfortable number. And once I figured all that out, then I was gonna go, okay, well, how much a year additional is that gonna be? And then we start getting quotes about insulation and stuff, and I can find out exactly what we're gonna need.
And Mr. Chairman, what I would say is that it sounds like you guys are open to a potential rate increase based off the proposed improvements. And so what we can do is go back, start figuring out some true costs on the improvements that we want to make, and then be able to back into what those rates need to be in order for us to accomplish those improvements over a certain period of time. You know, of course, we could do a smaller rate increase and it's gonna take us 5 years to make these improvements, or a larger increase is gonna take us 2 years, whatever it may be. But that gives us and gives you guys the information and the knowledge to be able to make a decision based off of. So certainly, it sounds, like I said, it sounds like y'all are open to it, and we'll go back and put some actual real hard numbers to it and be able to give you that information.
Fantastic. We provided feedback, and we appreciate the willingness to dig in. I think everybody's got a positive mindset towards that, but with that being said, I think we should table the airport rate discussion and revisit it on the next meeting.
One issue we may have, self-serve might be up before the next meetings. Move forward with
And that is something, yeah, if you guys are, because you didn't bring those rates up. So it looks like what is being proposed is a 25-cent markup on the self-serve for the avgas, and then a 50-cent markup on the Jet A self-serve. And so, yeah, we can certainly make that adjustment now, if up to the board, and then address the other rate increases at the next meeting.
There's also a rate increase on full service also.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, well, we got new fuel trucks, and they're expensive. So, with the implementation of self-serve and that being so cheap, in my opinion, we should go up a little bit on our full service, which the increase on avgas is 50 cents from $1 to $1.50, and for full service, it goes up from $1.30 to $1.75, and that's our markup.
And those fuel cost slides that you showed earlier, showing the competitiveness based on other fuel costs, was that utilizing this new markup, or was that utilizing the old?
That's utilizing our current fuel pricing with the old markup.
Stephen, would you be able to pull the presentation back up?
And a question that I would ask is, what does that mean? What do these increases mean in dollars to the average pilot? TJ's gonna go fill his aircraft up, he's gonna go fly. It normally cost him X dollars. What is it gonna cost him now? 100 low lead, what's, you know, with everything, based on your current rate, you know, that's,
With that increase, it would be $5.71 for 100 low lead. And for Jet A, it would be, what is that? $4.35, I believe.
So it looks like from the Jet A, which is where we generate most of our revenue, we'd still definitely be competitive in the Jet A market. And like you said, in the low lead, it considers the self-serve fueling capabilities in there. Sounds like we'd be still competitive in that as well.
So the 100 low lead price would be cheaper, self-serve,
Yes.
than the 521, and then full service would still be 521, or you want to go up on that as well?
Full service, the only thing that will go up is full service for 100 low lead and Jet A.
And so that'll put us above the regional average?
No. For 100 low lead? No, not for full service. That price includes, because there's no way to disseminate between self-serve pricing and full service pricing on the website. It just shows you what the average price is. And it even has an asterisk that says these include self-serve. So looking at that, knowing that that includes self-serve, will still be below full service pricing.
So you're gonna take both of them and average that cost together, that's that's the number that we use?
The markup,
No, based on the fuel cost plus our markup for both self-serve and full service, what you're saying is that we average those costs, that's how we would remain competitive in the low lead?
no, I'm just basing that off of a 50% and a 50 cent and a 45-cent rate increase. So when we get fuel from AirField, they give us a cost per gallon. Then we add our markup, which was approved by the city. For 100 low lead, it's $1, and for Jet A, it's $1.30. And that gives us our current fuel prices. That's including tax and environmental taxes and all that. And that's where we get the 521 for 100 low lead, and same for Jet A. So everything's set to order when we put that, what our purchase price is from AirField. It's already set in the AirField hub where we enter our fuel pricing.
Okay.
So with all the taxes and everything included.
I'm just trying to understand it though, because if those numbers on that slide are using the dollar markup and we go to $1.50, that raises 521 by 50 cents. That's 571.
Yes.
So that puts us above both regional and national average on low lead.
No,
I'm sitting here doing the math. So the 100 low lead include the regional and the national average include the self-service fueling. And so
which is cheaper.
if we took our 521 plus our proposed avgas self-service fuel of a quarter,
Puts you at
and which
546.
puts us at 596, and divide that by 2 to get our average is only at 298.
596 divided by 2.
Yeah, but what are you gonna buy for 298?
That's where I'm trying to understand how they come up with their average self-serve fueling. So unless everybody else's self-serving prices are a lot higher than ours as well. Are they?
Yes.
Okay.
We're extremely low on our fuel pricing.
And you want to increase Jet A by what?
45 cents.
45 cents.
And that's why I was asking, not per gallon, really. I guess the answer I was really looking for was, what does this mean to the average Jet A customer and the average general aviation pilot? Is this gonna cost him $20 more every time he fills up? Or for Jet A, is this gonna cost them $1,800 more every time they fill up? That's kind of what I was looking at.
It really all depends on how much gas they get.
Right.
So, I mean, what is the capacity of the,
85 gallons.
so another $43 on a 50-cent additional markup? And so, James, I guess my question is, in order to get those national averages, are we way too low on our self-serve? If we're only marking up a quarter and 50 cents, and if those are the national averages, like I said, the average between our full service and our self-service is only $2.98, but the national average is $5.38. That means that they have to be closer together, your self-serve and your full service.
Not
See,
necessarily.
my math showed a 493. And
Average?
so 493 average.
Okay.
Of both of them. And I added 25 cents to the 100 low lead, and you said 45 cents to Jet A, and I took those and added them together and divided them by 2, and I come up with $4.93, which keeps us below,
Okay.
significantly below.
Below the 560.
Yes.
So full service, well, that's assistant, self-serve. Portales don't have trucks, do they? Okay.
You either look at Portales or Hereford. Would be our closest two airports, but Hereford, the big difference between them and us is the taxes in Texas are significantly lower than New Mexico taxes. That's why Hereford is so much cheaper.
And that is definitely something that we've heard out of the NMDOT Aviation, is when you're comparing your prices, you need to stick within New Mexico because the tax structure is so different from state to state. I mean, we recognize it in fuel prices for automobiles. And so it's something that you've always got to keep in mind.
Does Hereford have trucks?
No, they're just self-service.
Okay. The Hereford's, they're self-serve, 100 low lead is $469 and Jet A is $329.
Well, I think you're gonna see your self-served, be used significantly by general aviation. And, I think that's gonna be a huge plus. But I will, also say that there are, I would encourage you guys to keep a customer service mindset because there are people who will pay for the convenience, of full service.
Full service in Amarillo for 100 low lead is $6.68 and $5.36 for Jet A.
We're still gonna be $2 below, basically on the Jet A.
Which I think for a while we need to be. We need
Absolutely.
to continue to entice people to come and visit our airport and see the things that we're doing and participate in the excitement that we have going and see if we can continue to build on it. And so,
And that's another reason for the small increase on self-serve. It's not something we're gonna do forever, but initially to get maybe for a year, and then we'll do another increase on that. That was my thinking on it.
so Justin, do you need action from the board on this one?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we accept the airport manager's recommendation that we increase the prices on the self-serve and the full service by the amounts indicated on this spreadsheet.
You know, I'm not a pilot, you know, and that's so, I don't have that pilot mindset, so that's why I'm asking, you know, does that $43 impact the average pilot going out to fly when he's filling up his aircraft? And if he's having somebody else fill it for him, and he's got full service, that's gonna be even greater increase, 50 cents, you know, for full service, if he has somebody fuel it, so, I don't know.
The guy that's using full service, I don't think it's gonna matter. But I do feel like that the people that are using, self-serve, you know, we've never had prices that cheap, here in Clovis, and it keeps us below, even with the increase, keeps us below, the region and still entices people, to come in. And so as long as we're below the average and we're encouraging people to use, self-serve, seems logical to me.
Okay. Okay. I'm good with that.
So I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, that we follow the guidelines, for fuel increases that, the airport manager has proposed. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, James, airport monument sign. I'm assuming that's back with you?
Okay. So we had talked about redoing the monument sign and the cost to do so. Well, the cost of the sign itself. We still haven't gotten the cost to move it. The more I look at the $20,000 bill on that thing, in the projects that we need to do currently, I kind of think we need to hold off for a couple years. And I can try to get some funding, maybe from state DOT or something else to build that, because it's $20,000. In the meantime, I started looking at the terminal sign and how good that came out and how good it looks. And if we do something similar to what we did on the terminal, because right now the sign outside is the lettering that's wrong. The sign itself is perfectly fine. It's the lettering. But instead of putting more lettering up there, we can have a backlit sign like we do on the terminal on both sides, and we can get rid of that light pole thing out front, which I hate those light poles. So, bringing up for your action and approval is to get a sign made to go there, and excuse my photoshopping badness. I'm not a perfectionist on Photoshop, so I tried to give you the best idea of what it would look like on that sign.
I think it looks great, and I really thank you for trying to use the current sign in its capacity. As we've discussed before, the young man did this as an Eagle Scout project, and I think it's kind of cool that right now that same young man is in test pilot training at Edwards Air Force Base. So I don't want to tear down anything that he put up, but changing the letters, that's a great idea, and especially the backlit.
Yeah, I'm concerned about how they're going to take that thing. I think it'll get destroyed if we moved it. So before we even move it or attempt to, I'm going to need some guarantees from the
So James, do you have new quote numbers on what it'll take to get the new sign with the backlit
No,
put in?
I don't have them yet. I'm waiting on Clovis sign to finally get a minute to come take a look at us again.
And Jamie New, the guy that owns Clovis Sign, is really interested in this project, so if you can make contact with him, I think it would be a good thing.
Okay.
And so if you guys are comfortable with the concept, then it's something that would just be coming out of our budget to have to pay for. So as long as you guys are good with the concept, then we can move forward if y'all agree to this.
I'm good with leaving what's there and modifying it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea. And maybe in the out years, we can look at some different signage and incorporate this legacy.
That's
in
one
with the
thing
new
I was looking
signage.
at too.
Yeah.
Try to keep it, because I don't think they'll move it without destroying it.
I don't think so either.
The more I look at it, it's like, this thing is,
It was built good.
yeah.
And the fencing project is gonna cut off that corner at a 45-degree angle.
So to make it stand out and people be able to see
Fence
it.
will actually be,
I love that.
west or east of that sign. So it'll be able to be seen very well without fencing in the way.
Yeah, and with the backlight on that sign, it'll just make it stand out even more.
And I love the logo, you know, that, it looks so good on the terminal building, I can't imagine why it wouldn't look as good right here.
And did you say this would be backlit like the other sign?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is great. That just gave us the perfect picture as to what it was gonna look like.
All right, you have consensus on the airport monument sign, and so let's move to water rate revisions.
That's actually something that we're going to take off the agenda, if you don't mind.
Okay.
As we look at the extension of EPCOR's water system out to our system, we're talking with EPCOR, the potential of them operating and maintaining our entire system out there. That way they don't have to be small water operators any longer. And so I don't think it's an appropriate time to discuss the water rates. Right now, our water rates are based off of EPCOR's current water rates. And so, especially if they start to operate and maintain the system themselves, so there's consistency there. So definitely think that this is something that we need to wait on.
All right.
Mr. Chairman? aside from the rates, can we get an update on where we stand with the water making it to the airport?
Yeah, certainly. And so the city of Clovis, at the last city commission meeting, approved, introduced the ordinance that would, the agreement with the state economic development department. And so as soon as that is adopted, which is 30 days from introduction, then we'll get the ordinance back to the state to enter into the formal agreement with them. EPCOR has already started to look at how they're going to get the line out there. They're basically going to do like a design build type project. They've got a consultant on board for the design aspect of it, and then they'll be working with a contractor to get the construction aspect on it. They're actually already talking about potentially starting to secure the pipe now, because if we talked about earlier, inflation and increased cost, not only on the materials themselves, but on trying to get the supplies in. It's something that they're concerned about, as well as we are concerned about. The cost of the project itself from the time we put in our application has already gone up about $500,000. And so we definitely want to get moving forward with this. So the state obviously is putting in $2.1 million. The city of Clovis we're going to make application to ourselves for LEDA funding to $500,000 to that extent, and then the remaining $500,000 EPCOR would eventually, it would end up in a rate case and back into the rates. So that's the way we're trying to make that difference up in construction costs going up. We have 2 years to get the grant funding spent, but it won't. Once we get started, it's not going to take us 2 years, especially doing a design build.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions under new business? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned until 5:30 PM Tuesday, November 2nd. Thank you guys for the time. Thank you.